Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Montana Farm Bureau Field Notes podcast. My name is Haley Drugsma. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the digital communications lead here at the Montana Farm Bureau Federation. I'd like to kick today's podcast episode off with a reminder that if you have anything you'd like to learn about, a pertinent news story, or someone you'd want to see us bring on the podcast, whether that's yourself or someone you know, please shoot me an email at haleyd@mfbf.org. That's HALEYD@mfbf.org. My goal is always to bring you interesting, exciting content about agriculture, and I'd love your recommendations. Now let's get into today's episode. I'm very excited to have our District 5 Director, Darcia Patten, on the podcast today. Darcia, thank you for joining me.
You bet.
You want to start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your operation in Broadus?
Well, I am a fifth generation from my own family in ranching, and my husband is third generation on the ranch that we are on, and it is over 100 years old.
Wow.
Was 100 years old several years ago. I got to stop and think about this. I think about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, the place was 100 years old. And of course, we have Angus cattle. We raise a few horses, have enough pigs to keep pork in our freezer, and a few other people, and chickens. And we got the whole gamut. And it's what I love to do. I grew up on a ranch and had to leave it in my teenage years, and always wanted to be back. And well, here I am. So we have 3 girls and 5 grandkids, and just loving life.
That's awesome. Where did you grow up on that original ranch? What was that like growing up in agriculture?
I grew up on a ranch in Bell Creek, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Once again, we had cows, we had pigs, we had sheep, we had chickens, had hunters come out, every hunting season. And even as a little kid, I was taking hunters out. So it was just the best way in the world to grow up, and the best way to raise kids, because you grow up with a very good understanding of what it takes to make animals' lives happy and healthy and productive. And you get a great work ethic, and you get to see the benefits of all the hard work that you put in. So it just was, to me, it was the only way a kid should grow up.
Yes, yeah, I would agree. I think that those of us who do get to grow up and be raised in agriculture are pretty blessed, to say the least. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That is great. I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, you are a very involved member in the Montana Farm Bureau, serving as District 5 Director. Do you want to talk about how you initially got roped into Farm Bureau, when your involvement started with the organization?
Oh, I went to a county meeting.
Yep, that's the
I
origin
went to a
story
county, yeah, I
for
went to a
lots.
county meeting, and the next thing I know, I walked out of there elected president.
Yep, that is a common story, I think, across the board.
It just, everything that Montana Farm Bureau does as a federation is near and dear to my heart. So, the education that we get out there for the kids and adults alike, and then also, fighting for agriculture, because, the world depends on agriculture. We feed the world, and somebody's got to speak up and have that voice. And so it just, first year in, and I was just hooked.
If you had to give advice to someone who was maybe never been involved in Farm Bureau before, or maybe is thinking about it, what would you encourage them to try first? Like a county meeting, maybe one of the bigger conferences? what do you think would be an ideal path, I guess, of involvement for kind of a first time Farm Bureau member?
I think there's two avenues. I think going to a county farm bureau meeting is a good way to get your feet wet. But then at the same time, I think if you just jump in and you go to a farm bureau, Montana Farm Bureau summer committee meetings and really get to see what the whole state is doing and that we're all enjoying it and having fun with it. I think either one of those avenues is a fantastic start into Montana Farm Bureau.
I would have to agree with that. And our summer conference is actually coming up here pretty soon, June 15th, 16th, and 17th in Kalispell, Montana. So if anyone's interested in that that's listening, feel free to head to mfbf.org and check that out. Maybe get yourself registered. But I totally agree that those are great ways to get started in Farm Bureau. And there's really, I don't think there's a bad way, but just taking the first step and getting
And I,
involved.
and I think that's it. Just take the first step, get your feet wet, and you'll be amazed at what Farm Bureau is doing behind the scenes all the time. It is one of the best organizations I've ever been a part of.
We appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that you have that point of view, and I am excited for May Membership Month for potential members to hear stories from people like you who have been so involved and really made the most of their Farm Bureau membership. With that, you mentioned that one of your favorite parts about being involved in the Federation is sort of the agricultural literacy work that we do for kids of all ages, really trying to pour into the future of agriculture. And you have definitely spent quite a bit of time and effort doing that yourself. Talk to our audience a little bit about your involvement in some of the ag literacy work that you do in your sort of southeast Montana area, and helping educate students.
You bet. So I just wrapped up 2026 ag safety education in all the schools in Powder River and Carter County. And we had roughly 430 kids and several adults actually participate in it this year. We did pre-K through 12th grade, and let's see, I got Hammond, Hawksholme, Alzada, and Biddle country schools, and then I have Ekalaka and Broadus K through 12 in both of those schools, and it was great. And you know what's even better about it? I've been to a couple of different community functions later on, and I've had some of those kids come up and thank me later on. And I had a kid just a couple days ago come up and say, I'm graduating eighth grade here Wednesday, and I've been watching you do this ag safety for 8 years now, and it'd be really cool if you were at my eighth grade graduation.
Wow. Oh,
And I'm
that
like,
is
wow.
awesome.
I said, you're not tired of me yet? And he said, oh no, I'm kind of sad that I'm not going to see you again. And then I told him, well, you know what? I just did K through 12th ag safety and brought us on the 29th of April. And he said, so I might get to watch you for 4 more years. I said, you sure might. He said, that's fantastic because I learn something new every year. And it's like, that just warms your heart. It's like, dang, not tired of listening to me yet. And I mean, I added some firearm safety to our program this year, and I've interviewed local folks so that they can actually put a name or a face to some of these things, and it really hits home. I've had a lot of feedback from parents saying, I really appreciate what you're doing for the kids. Sometimes not so much, though, because they're always telling me, Dad, you're not doing that right. That's not in the ag safety program.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can train the kids, and if I can save one kid from a farm or ranch accident, I've done my job.
For sure. Yeah. That is very impressive work. You touched a little bit on, the addition of fire safety. Do you want to go over all the different aspects of the program that these kids get run through?
Yeah, we talk about the safety in, if there's only one seat on the tractor, there's only one rider, and show them reasons why, and about, how the cabs aren't safe unless you're buckled in. We talk about PTO safety and how quickly you can be grabbed up by that, without even thinking, just some loose clothing or hair or something. And then we talk about grain safety, the dangers of collapsing grains or the hazards of the chemicals used in grain. Um, Talk about the safety in not touching valves and hoses on propane tanks, welding tanks. Talk about the smell of gas, whether all gas has a smell or not. And most people don't know, but propane actually has no smell without the scent being put in it. And I have a really cool story about my dad being in a fire because there was no scent in the propane, and it's a pretty eye-opening story. And some of the kids have heard it several years, and some of them ask me to say it again every year for the new kids. So um, we talk about uh, safety with fire and electricity and uh, farm equipment and trucks and power lines. And we added firearm safety, um, things to do, things not to do. We have a local kid here in Broadus that lost his arm in a firearm accident, and he actually let me interview him and tell his story. And it's pretty eye opening. And then um, have some a little video on there about when your luck could run out, and just different stupid little things that this young gal is doing around farm equipment or animals, and talking about the fact that an insect bite could cause you to lose your life from sepsis, and you know retracting drawbars, and the fact that the person in the tractor can't hear or see anybody around those big tires, and that you should never step up on those things, or you know getting into any kind of a harvester and losing a limb. Or we talk about things like, not to walk between a pickup and a horse trailer even if it's stopped, and reasons why. And you know the fact that a horse or a cow can't see directly behind them, and you don't walk up from a blind area, or how far behind them a horse can kick without ever moving, taking a step. And you know there's another local kid here that there's a video of him ear tagging a calf, and he's actually across the fence from the cow, and she comes blowing through the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And and just real life things that can happen. We talk about ATV safety and side by side safety and the dangers there, and the fact that most accidents are preventable if you just take a few more seconds or minutes and think about what it is you're doing and all the hazards there.
For sure. That's interesting to hear about. I was just out helping last week with the fourth grade ag days in Gallatin County, and it's fun to hear the difference of what they hear in a place like Gallatin County, where there's a lot more of an urban rural interface versus just the plain ag safety for these kids who are a lot of times in your area already pretty well ingrained in the agricultural community. So it's kind of interesting to hear those differences. Another thing that's different between the two is that, like I mentioned in Gallatin County, with the population density too, I'm sure that makes a difference, but we just present to fourth graders. And you have quite the age spectrum on your hands. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that came to be?
Well, I'd been doing this for several years, and then the fifth grade teacher in Ekalaka a year ago said, "Why are we just doing second and fifth grade?" And I'm like, "Well, in the country schools, I do whatever grades are there." And she said, "I really think we should be presenting this to our K through 12th graders, um, because they all need to hear this. Some of their parents do too. So, would you be willing to do K through 12th? And I'm like, well, yeah, sure. I mean, if that's what you want, but it's on you to get the school board and the school to approve this. And then last year, when I called to schedule the schools, when I called Ekalaka, the secretary said, no, we're doing K through 12th this year, right? And I'm like, am I? And she said, yeah. So in about a 2 week span, I threw together a new PowerPoint program. So I had it for all those age groups.
That's pretty
and
impressive.
and we just keep improving on it. And we've had some pretty amazing feedback from parents, teachers, and kids alike thanking us. So I guess we're doing the right thing.
That's wonderful. That's very impressive. And you can never hear some of those things too many times. The reminder is always pertinent. Like you mentioned, even parents a lot of the times can benefit from just being reminded of some of these day-to-day safety practices that you might not take a minute and think about as much.
Oh, absolutely. There's not a year that I've done this that I haven't had at least one kid say, I think Dad and Grandpa could sure use your ag safety.
Yeah. Yep. That is too funny.
So myself included. I mean, we all get too comfortable with the things that we're doing, and sometimes just don't take that extra minute or two to really think about all the dangers. And, you know, we need to.
For sure. Yep. I'd also like to ask you, kind of as someone who's headed this, really a lot of this work has kind of been on you. And I know that there are other programs and other places that do similar things across the state. If there was someone who was looking to start up a program like this in their local area, what would be your first recommendations for them?
My first recommendations would be make the decision that you're going to do it, and then just start with a basic safety program. And I mean, there's all kinds of online content, but I think one of the biggest benefits that I've had with our program is reaching out to local people in the area that have had the accident and just letting them tell their story. Do a video interview with them and incorporate that into your program. When those kids see that familiar face or that familiar name, it really becomes real, and they really sit up and pay attention, and then they get involved and start telling stories, either on themselves or a friend or a family member about, if we'd have done this, that might not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, I am more than willing to share what I have in my program with anyone to get started, and start with it, and change it to your own community later on. That would be my recommendation. That is one other thing this year. My daughter, who lives in Georgia and used to be part of our county farm bureau here, and actually she still is. She runs our Facebook page, and she actually used my program for a homeschool group in Georgia the 1st of May. And she presented it to 26 kids. And I think there were like 6 or 8 adults as well. And they were all very impressed with the program. So it can fit anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just fine tune it. Just decide you're going to do it and do it. That's the best thing. Call the school and say, hey, you know, have you got a good day that we can pick? And I try to start calling them mid-February to get it scheduled and try and have them all done before the end of April.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and it was a whirlwind this year.
Yes, I can imagine. That's wonderful. That really goes to show kind of how universal all of those different safety practices are and how necessary it is for people across Montana and beyond to hear all these different messages in their day to day. For sure.
A- Absolutely. I mean, it might not be exactly what's happening in that state or that county, but it's going to be really close, and it's a starting point to just to turn it around and make it your own.
Certainly. Wow, that's very impressive. And we are so grateful for the work that you have been doing with that. And of course, Montana Farm Bureau, as a state organization, is always here to help with resources wherever we can. I know we have lots of agriculture literacy resources on hand if anyone is ever needing them, any sort of facilitation things. If someone is interested in starting something like this, they're more than welcome to reach out to us. We've got lots of stuff on hand to hopefully help make that as easy of a thing to start as possible.
Dana has been a lot of help, and we always hand out like ag mags and different safety information, and I have some things that I've looked up, and I'd be willing to share any of our handouts with anyone. Um, Also, we started last year giving out a first aid kit with our county farm bureau logo on it to all of the kids that sit through the presentation, and I think that's an added little extra touch that they really appreciate.
For sure. Those are great ideas, and giving them something tangible to take home is awesome. And then to use if they ever do need it. That's great. Thank you so much, Darcia, for sharing all of this. I'm so excited to hopefully have some listeners be inspired by all of your work and your story that you shared with us today. One last thing that we're doing for May Membership Month. Hopefully, some of our listeners have seen and participated, but we are doing weekly giveaways. So, anyone who comments on our membership posts throughout the month of May is automatically entered in a giveaway at the end of every week. So, we'll be drawing from last week's commenters. We're giving away a DeWalt 20-volt air inflator today, which was kindly donated by our partner Granger, who is also a member benefit of ours. Anyone who does have a Farm Bureau membership can use Granger discounts. There's all sorts of perks. If you do visit mfbf.org, you can find out more about some of the money you can save with Granger. But they kindly donated that air inflator to us this week. And Darcia, I would like you to draw our winner. So if you want to pick a number between 1 and 30, we will have a winner for this week.
27.
27. Looks like that is Butch Gillespie of Front Range County's Farm Bureau. So congratulations, Butch. Thank you for your comment. And thanks, Darcia, for joining us today and for picking our winner and sharing so much great information. It was a wonderful time to have you on today.
Thanks, Haley. I just love to help out. So, and I just think that anyone that becomes a member, you can more than pay for your membership in the benefits and in the programs that Montana Farm Bureau has for you. So I encourage everyone to become a member.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And I will catch all of you members of the Farm Bureau family in the next episode. Thank you for listening.